I started this journey, I guess, when I was 18, just getting into the gym, starting to lift weights. I was a dancer my entire life, like a ballerina. I was constantly told, don't gain too much weight, don't gain too much muscle. Months in the year where you would be running track and competing, I would gain like quads. And my dance teacher would say, that's too much, you gotta pull back. I ended up having an eating disorder in university. I think that coupled with, seeing my mom always on a diet, my aunt always on a diet, my grandparents always on a diet, I went through a pretty traumatic time where my aunt passed away of cancer. She was like a second mom to me. She got diagnosed on New Year's and died like the day after my birthday in August. As soon as that happened, I spiraled. And I feel like that was the only thing I could really control at the time was how I ate. And that's when I developed my eating disorder.
Were you conscious about it, or do you think that it was unconscious?
I think it was unconscious at the time. I think it was just because I wanted to be like thin and as fit as possible.
All right. Gut Gang Podcast episode, I think 1 or 2 or 3 in season 2, which is pretty cool. Brennan here in the studio with Jen van Barnveld. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did.
For the second
Very
time.
good.
Amazing. And Jen is the chief editor of Strong Fitness, or just Strong Magazine?
President of Strong Fitness Magazine.
President of Strong Fitness Magazine. I call you kind of like the Anna Wintour of Canadian women's fitness magazines. Yeah.
So nice.
That's you, isn't it?
Kind of. Yeah. I'll take that.
Has anyone ever called you that? Well, that's it. That's you. You're the Anna Wintour.
Thank you.
Yeah, because she's a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you.
She's a beast. Yeah. Yeah.
So we are in the studio shooting the podcast. Now, some of the prerequisites of my podcast is I really like to do them in person. And the second prerequisite is they need to be a graduate of my program, but not everyone, because I don't want to be doing like an advertorial every single episode, even though you are a graduate, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the third prerequisite is they have to be willing to do a cold plunge and a sauna, which you've agreed to do.
I've agreed to do it.
Are you reluctant or are you enthusiastic?
I'm all for the sauna.
Yeah.
Not so much the cold plunge, but I'll do it for you.
Okay. And then the fourth and final prerequisite is you've got to be an awesome human being. So I think you've got that covered. So I'm really excited to just talk shop.
Yeah.
Really get to know you a little bit more. Share you with the community, and vice versa.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you, and you helped me so much. So
before we even get into that, I'm going to reserve. I'm going to save it. Why don't we start off with who you are, where you're from, and what you've been doing over the last little while. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, sure. So I am the president of Strong Fitness Magazine. I am the founder of Strong Girls, which is an online coaching platform for women. I help women build muscle so they can thrive as we age. I feel like muscle is such a huge component, and I feel like the industry's kind of taken a recent shift now. I feel like we still have work to do, but a lot of women are finally realizing the importance of building muscle and building muscle mass for life. My mission is to be deadlifting with my grandchildren, and I want to help every single woman who crosses my path do that as well.
That's your mission. You want to be deadlifting with your grandchildren.
Yes.
That's such an individual, unique mission to have.
And I want to help women do the same. Like I want women to thrive with age and not go backwards.
I can just picture that now too. What an amazing image to think about. So cool. Okay, so you want to be able to do that. What else?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 12 years now. It's been awesome. I'm now helping other women become coaches themselves so they can, help other women in their space thrive, build muscle. So we have a Strong Formula coaching certification, which is doing really well. And we are excited to grow that in the next couple of years two. I'm a mom of two amazing little boys, 5 and 9, and they keep me very busy. Jackson is my oldest, who's in competitive tennis, and he's a national level tennis player. So I'm always at the tennis courts. Well, that's my second home. Um, but yeah, I started this journey, I guess, when I was 18, just getting into the gym, starting to lift weights. I was a dancer my entire life, like a ballerina. And so I was constantly told, don't gain too much weight, don't gain too much muscle. I ran track in school. So I remember when, you would go through those, months in the year where you would be running track and competing, I would gain like quads. And my dance teacher would say, that's too much. You got to pull back. So
What kind of dance?
ballet, yeah. And then I did a little bit of like lyrical and jazz later on. But I danced for the National Ballet School of Canada. And that's kind of where I started with, fitness and really learning how to take care of my body. But I was constantly told not to get too big.
And so was that a common phrase that you heard for yourself personally, as well as some of the other girls on the team?
Yes.
Don't get too big.
Yeah, your thighs are getting too big. You shouldn't be running.
And what did that do for you? Did it bother you? Did you try to pull back, or was there sort of secondary and tertiary emotions behind that? What was that like?
It affected me for sure. I ended up having an eating disorder in university, and I
Did
feel
that
like
stem?
that. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that coupled with, seeing my mom always on a diet, my aunt always on a diet, my grandparents always on a diet. And then I went through a pretty traumatic time where my aunt passed away of cancer. She was like a second mom to me. And she got diagnosed on New Year's and died like the day after my birthday in August. So, and she was really influential in my life.
Mhm.
So as soon as that happened, I spiraled. And I feel like that was the only thing I could really control at the time was how I ate. And that's when I developed my eating disorder.
That's it. So there's psychology behind that, right? You felt the only thing that you can control at that time, because you were spiraling in emotions with your aunt passing, was the food.
Yeah.
And so what did that look like?
So I would restrict myself severely. Every time I would eat, I would, do some sort of like cardio class. I would binge at night and then throw up.
Let's talk about that, just the emotional component, because you said that you felt that you lost control with your aunt passing.
I lost control because I didn't know how to process it. And I lost, I guess, my mom as well, because it was her sister.
Okay.
So she was going through that.
Yeah.
My mom's an amazing mom. We're amazing now. But it was obviously a really rocky part of it was a rocky few years. And my aunt had a younger daughter at the time who came to live with us. She was 4, so my mom had to be her mom. So it was a huge life shift and change.
How old were you again?
I was 18.
Got it.
Yeah. And then I was going to university the following year. And I chose to stay close to home where all my friends left. So it was just a really big, pivotal moment in my life. And I feel like that's kind of where it all kind of came to a head. And that was the only thing I felt like I could control at the time.
Right. You've got a whole new living arrangements.
Yeah.
Becoming essentially an older sister.
Yeah.
Right. To a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
That changes the whole dynamic in the house. And so you said the only thing that you could control is food. Were you conscious about it, or do you think that it was unconscious?
I think it was unconscious at the time. Yeah. I think it was just because I wanted to be like thin and as fit as possible.
Mm-hmm. What sort of transpired after that?
Yeah. So I became a personal trainer. So I was like training clients in the morning. I was going to school in the afternoon and then coming back and training at night. I was receiving a lot of kind of bad advice too. And I was struggling with my eating disorder and then also trying these diets as well, like trying to be almost like a bodybuilder or like, bikini competitor. I never competed, but I was receiving a lot of advice from other trainers. And it was one day when I was training a client and I actually fainted on the gym floor. And that was really my wake-up call. It was like, here I am trying to help others and preach health and preach fitness, and I was the most unhealthiest person in the room. So I knew if I continued on that path that I wouldn't really live a very long life. I decided to, this was kind of at the end of my university, so I decided to go back to school for holistic nutrition at the time. I went to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and I really learned how to eat and fuel my body and not be afraid of food. And I also hired some trainers that helped me really understand how to put a program together. And I started lifting weights and enjoying seeing my muscles grow. And I kind of put the scale to the side, and I called this time in my life finding my strong, because I really felt strong. I felt empowered. I saw my body change, like building muscle, and I absolutely loved it. And I decided I needed to help every woman feel like this.
And you were essentially trying that before.
Yes.
But
yeah, very
relatively
bad. Like double day
unsuccessful.
cardio.
Yeah.
Like just, almost like treating working out like it was punishment. Like I would be there for 2 hours. I'd be doing like 30 minutes of the cardio. Then I would do some sort of weights for 30 minutes. And then I would like kill it on cardio for another hour.
Mm-hmm. And all of this time you said you were being influenced by other opinions telling you what to do. What were some of the things that you were being told?
Yeah. Double day cardio, cutting carbs.
Yeah.
Eating 1,200 calories or less.
Thinking that was the golden, the staple.
Yeah, because I would be getting some opportunities with photographers, like wanting me to shoot for their magazine. And I felt like I had to do this like crazy prep. And so I would ask other trainers and they would set me up, and it would be the double day cardio. It would be like no carbs for like a week.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you at this time?
I was in my early 20s. Yeah.
Okay.
Early 20s.
So you're doing the photo shoots and you're beating yourself up relentlessly, like most young 20-year-old women do, right? And guys too. You had a wake-up call. You pretty much fainted on the gym floor.
Fainted on the gym floor,
while training a client. And then you decided to go to CSNN. How cool is that? Alumni, me. And the amount of new information that you learned in sort of a condensed period of time, it really blows away any university almost, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was like, why didn't I find this before?
Right.
Yeah. It was awesome.
So you found your strong. What did that look like? What did it feel like?
Just like another level of confidence, like I felt almost free. Like I felt freedom. I knew that I was like gaining weight, but I didn't care, like I loved growing muscles, and I loved the way I felt on the gym floor, like lifting and continually getting stronger. And not worrying about like weighing myself, and not really worrying about food. Like I really let myself eat anything I wanted. I've always been a very healthy eater, usually going towards more whole foods majority of the time. So, but I just wasn't restrictive anymore. And I loved how I looked, and I loved how I felt. And I really wanted to help other women do the same thing, because I knew how many women around me were struggling as well.
Right. Total funny statement. How many times have you helped women achieve strength, right, and achieve muscle building? How many times have women been reluctant and said to you, I don't want to get bulky?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Because you don't look bulky. You're not, your biceps aren't bulging.
I wish I could get bulky. Like, I wish I could gain more muscles, but it's so hard.
Right.
It's really hard. And that's what I used to hear that a lot. Like, let's say the first 8 years of, maybe 9 years of my coaching. So
that's a decade of hearing women say, I don't want to get, I don't want to. Yeah. Now, do you think that is a subconscious motive or excuse to allow them permission to not actually try hard?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a dig, but
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But I do feel like sometimes you go through a phase where you're building muscle and you might not be losing fat at the same time. And
Okay.
so maybe you do feel like you're bulking up a bit, like those newbie gains.
Sure.
I remember feeling that way a little bit in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I took this like powerhouse course and I ended up gaining like 8 pounds. Just maybe I was hungrier or like I wasn't really paying attention to my food. But I feel like that can happen. That
Yep.
can happen. But you just have to believe in the process or hire a coach that knows what they're doing, to help with the food part. But it is really hard to gain muscle. Like
Yeah.
at this point in my life, I've been lifting for, I don't know how many years now, 20 years, even more than 20 years now. I'm old now. But it's so hard now to put on lean mass.
Hormones change. We're not, in our 20s anymore. It's very difficult for me. I'm in a major metamorphosis change with my own body as well. I'm not the bodybuilder that I used to be. And that plays a role on my psyche.
Yeah.
And that plays a role on my body. But at the same time, it's being able to recognize that, honor it. And
what was the cost of that, right?
That time in the gym, continuously eating 5, 6, 7 meals a day,
It's exhausting.
3 hours total in the gym every day. Now, it got me multiple things and it got me where I am. But now that my priorities have changed, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm also 42 years old.
Yeah.
I don't have a 20-year-old.
Same age as me. You're saying, 82.
I'm 83.
Or 83. Okay, so we're 1 year younger. Yeah.
Okay, so that turned into the desire to help women. You took Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, changed your paradigm around food. Then what?
I was also working in the supplement industry at the time too. So that was kind of my first job out of university. So I was really engulfed in the fitness industry.
What brand?
What
were you doing?
So have you heard of Wellnex or NX Care?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if I saw a picture, I'm not sure.
So it was like the next big sports supplement brand here in Canada, besides Muscle Tech.
Got it.
Right. So I was working there and we were going to all the shows, like the Olympia, the Europa show, like all over. And that was kind of my job to plan these fitness shows. There was some legal things going on. And so a bunch of people from NX Care lost their job. I was one of them. There were like 60 or 70 of us that got let go. And I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? And so I started to become a contract for some other supplement companies and for some like dieting products. So like, the hydroxycut, like those dieting pills.
Yeah.
What we would have to do is find women who were in shape before. Okay. And maybe have, some excess fat now. So like 25 plus pounds.
Right.
And we would have to get them dieted down within 10 to 12 weeks. But they used the supplement.
Okay.
And that's how they achieved their fat loss. But I was the trainer behind it. So
yeah, but it's there's a little bit of truth behind it. I'm sure, some of these products do work to a degree.
And it does say on the back, like with diet and exercise.
Of course. But they tend to negate those larger factors.
Yeah.
And they put the highlight on just the pills in the bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
So I did that for a while. And it was good because I got my feet wet. I got my feet wet in the world of coaching, body transformation and body recomp and fat loss. But the only thing that I hated about it was the timeline, and I had to aggressively diet these people in a specific amount of time,
right?
8 to 12 weeks. So, it was one day when I was like at the grocery store and I ran into one of the women who was part of one of the campaigns and she had gained all the weight back.
Oh.
And she was like, Jenny, so nice to see you. Oh my gosh, I have to get back on the plan because, it really worked. And I'm thinking in my head, it obviously didn't work, she didn't know how to maintain or sustain that. Her daughter was there with her and her daughter said, oh, is this the coach that made you eat nothing? And I was like, I was fortified. Yeah. So I was like a stab in the heart. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to still do this. I love it, but I want to do it on my own terms and in a way that it's sustainable and maintainable.
Mhm.
That these people are walking away from, yes, the body recount, but they know how to continue living like this for the rest of their life. And that's when I said no more to the contracts, and I started Strong Girls.
Before we take a quick break, let's talk about, or let's just segue into why so many women and men who try diets or programs and they do see success, but why is it so often that they relapse and gain the weight back and then even more some?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break and then we'll segue into
So,
that. Okay,
perfect.
cool.
Brandon! Something happens inside us when we get inspired to change ourselves, change our nutrition, our fitness. But we really do need to visualize to see and feel how we want to be. And for that, we need a plan.
No, you need a plan.
I want you
We
to
need
say,
a plan.
We need a plan.
You said we,
need a
so
plan.
I don't know.
Brandon Coates is the author of the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Let Brandon into your lives for just 30 days. It'll be epic, I can promise you. Because for some of you, maybe it is time to bust out of what you are. It's the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Available direct at BrandonCoates.ca. And go behind the scenes with Brendan for each and every episode of the Gut Gang Podcast. That's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Brandon! I think this podcast is going to be fun, pretty fun, and different than the other podcasts.
And we're back. So let's talk about how people are successful with, let's say, diets or challenges, programs, and then relapse. Why do you think that is?
Well, as a coach, our job is to also give them the information throughout, the program, whether it's a 12-week program or a 16-week program, of how they can start working in a lifestyle approach after, right? So if that's not done at the coaching level, then a lot of people come in and say, okay, I'm going to be done in 12 weeks and then I'll just go back, right? And I see this with a lot of women because they want to look amazing on their next vacation or whatever life event is happening. And they just don't see further than that. They're not looking at it like a lifestyle. So I feel as our job as a coach and with our community, we're always educating on like what's next. And, this is why I love teaching women how to build muscle, because building muscles for like the rest of your life, right? And when you have more muscle mass, you can enjoy life more. Like you can have more food and you don't have to be as strict, and you don't have to be searching for the next challenge or diet all the time. That vicious cycle.
Say that just a little bit slower and repeat that. Searching for the what?
The next challenge or diet.
Right, because we tend to chase that. Or I want to look great on my wedding, or I want to look good at my high school reunion, or I want to look good on the beach. And there's no more foresight after that.
Yeah.
And sure, they might attain that. Great, congratulations, you did it. And then what?
Yeah.
So for me as a coach and as an individual, especially learning human behavior, it's tapping into something so much deeper. And this is sort of buyer beware consumers. So many consumers get hook, line, and sinker with so many emotional coaches and these amazing carrots being dangled on a string. But at the same time, a really qualified and a good coach is going to really try to teach you, right? And so you see it, I see it. There's so many people that are spending their hard-earned dollars and really not getting much bang for their buck.
No.
And then being like, oh my God, this didn't work, right? And then I relapsed, I gain it all back. So I think there's two factors to that. There's the program works. If it's super, super extreme, it may not be such a wise, long-term, sustainable approach, but they still can work. But it's tying into their why.
Yeah.
And why ultimately do they want to do this? Like what's deeper than just looking good on the beach? Like what does it really mean?
Yes. And those tangible goals are fine. It can motivate a person to keep going.
Yep.
This is why we like to celebrate with a photo shoot at the end.
You've got I want you to tell me about that approach, because I love that idea.
Yeah. Like I used to get girls prepped for stage, and they would get on stage. They would look incredible. And I was always very proud because I never did any of like the tricks, and I didn't over diet anyone. Like if we had to take a little longer, we did.
Mm-hmm.
And these women would be competing for the first time. They'd step on stage and, they would get third or fourth or fifth, and they would leave feeling upset.
Third or fourth or fifth for the first time ever competing.
Yeah. And they would leave feeling upset. And they've never looked as good as they did that day. And so I said, you know what, enough of this. I'm not going to prep any more girls for competition anymore. I will prep them for a photo shoot.
Nice.
Yeah. And so when I started to get my girls ready for a photo shoot, celebrating themselves for the day, I absolutely loved it because it was like a celebration of their journey. They couldn't believe how they looked. They had these photos, thousands of images forever, and they left feeling amazing, incredible, and wanting to do something like that again.
Yeah.
Right. So personally, now being a mom and coaching other moms, like we just don't celebrate ourselves enough. We don't take the time and do something just for ourselves. So that's what we do now. And not everybody wants to do a photo shoot. Not everybody does. Majority of my community does because that's kind of what we're known for.
Sure. Well, and there's also an opportunity to be on the cover of a friggin' national magazine. Like, hello.
Yeah, or getting inside the magazine. That's another thing. Like it's kind of like a bucket list for moms who now look like fitness athletes, and they've grown up with, fitness magazines, Oxygen, and
look, check this out. Can you see my vision board right there?
yes,
So
men's health.
Yeah, but that's a picture of my head superimposed on a model.
Oh, that's so cute. We have girls coming in and they do that too. Like I put my head on your photo. I'm like, that is the sweetest thing ever. But we can make it happen.
It's been a dream of mine to be on the cover of a magazine, and at what capacity, right? I don't know, but it's on there.
It will happen. It will happen. That's amazing. I love it.
Let's talk a little bit more about, that woman's journey. And then I also would love to hear about your health journey as well. Right?
Yeah. So many of our women, they choose to step in front of the camera. We work with our chief photographer, Paul Busetta, who, he shot for Oxygen, and he's kind of like the #1 fitness photographer here. So we have all of our girls shoot with him. And a lot of them are like, oh my God, I cannot believe how I look. How can I help other women do this? So that's kind of, I was hearing this over and over and over again. And I'm like, I gotta do some sort of certification for them.
Yeah.
So a lot of our women, they'll shoot, they'll do our strong certification, and then we'll teach them how to start coaching.
So how amazing is that? You're now creating coaches that are certified that can help other women. But at the same time, this kind of, whether you want to say forces them or it gives them a trajectory to maintain sustainability.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're not going to relapse.
Yeah.
Because now there's a whole different level of new purpose. That's right.
Yeah. And then for those that don't want to do that, we are always talking about the next phase. Like now the next phase is really shaping and building the body and getting stronger.
Yeah, they just scratched the tip of the iceberg, didn't they?
Yeah, it's just the beginning. I always say the photo shoot's just the beginning. So, and then, the education piece, having them, we show up every Wednesday. We're always doing some sort of teaching on Wednesdays for our community, but it's just teaching the power of continuing to weight lift, going in and out of phases of your program. Like you have that as part of your program. Yep. There's phases. You're not supposed to be in one phase forever.
Right.
Right. So it's that piece.
You were stuck in that, your own little phase.
Yes.
For quite some time, right?
Yes.
And then you ended up fainting on a gym floor.
Yeah. That was my wake up.
But how many other women can relate to that? I'm sure you've worked with a ton.
Yeah. Like they're just, now, we have women coming in their 40s and they're literally not eating anything. And their hormones are a mess because they're like, oh, well, I've gained so much weight around the midsection. So I am like working out harder. I am down to like a 1,200 calorie diet and nothing's happening.
So for the women listenership and the viewership, pay attention because there's some golden nuggets. And if you resonate with this, Jen's got a good message here because this is so valuable and so many women can relate to this, right? Yeah. I hear it all the time. So Repeat that again, because I want them to be like, okay, that is me.
Yeah.
I am stuck in that.
So we're having a lot of women in their 40s coming into the program or reaching out and saying that their bodies are just changing. They're gaining more weight in their midsections. And what are they doing? They're doing more. They're doing more at the gym. They're doing more classes. A lot of them love to do the classes before, so they're doing more of that. And they're cutting out their calories, especially carbs. And they're eating like 1,200 calories and no carbs. Their body's not changing. Their body's just getting bigger. They're putting on more weight.
Yeah.
Because their body is jacked up with cortisol and they're making it worse.
Sure.
And what we used to do in our 20s, maybe our body responded back then, it's not going to respond in the same way.
Right.
40 plus.
Right. Yeah. That in and of itself is a major stressor, but they don't know. They're not, right? They've got this misconception that more is more beneficial.
Yeah. And less food is better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah,
they don't know how to eat.
Their body's holding on to everything because it's in essentially starvation mode.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about nutrients and all of that stuff. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about your health journey.
Yeah.
How we met.
Yes. So last year, around, I guess, December, I started experiencing just feeling very different. Waking up, which I didn't know at the time, but waking up with a little bit of anxiety. But I just felt, I thought I just felt a little different. I didn't know that it was anxiety at the time. We went on a family vacation for a tennis tournament in Florida.
Family vacation or just like sports tournament. Exactly. You do it with what you can do, right? You just got to double down. Of course.
Got to make the most of it.
Yeah.
So I remember kind of feeling a little strange going into the vacation. And then my son, Jackson, who is the one who was competing, he got stung by a manure. It's like a jellyfish on the beach. And apparently the pain is like a 10 out of 10. And so this screeching that came out of him, I thought he was dying and he thought he was dying. So it was a very traumatic 10 minutes. We had the ambulance come and everything. Apparently this is a thing that happens and you just have to put his foot in hot water. But I put his foot in cold water and the pain just literally goes throughout the entire body. So I thought he was having an allergic reaction.
Oh my God.
So
you don't know?
No, I did not know. And I just remember that moment. And then after I just felt horrible. I think it just tipped me over the edge, that whole experience. And then he had his tournament and I remember that I wasn't even able to watch.
What was it the thought that you put his foot in the cold water that made you feel horrible, or was it the whole experience?
Just the whole experience.
Okay.
I think it was just kind of a shock to my body as well, not knowing what it was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a very long experience. I just remember afterward, I think my body was just in fight or flight and I couldn't come back down to homeostasis. I know that now looking back.
Sure.
And then he had his tournament and I remember it's hard watching your kids compete, but in tennis, they're competing alone. And there's that extra pressure, I feel, but I couldn't even sit there. I had to walk around. I had diarrhea. It was crazy. And then the last 2 days of the trip, I thought I got food poisoning. I just felt so ill. I couldn't get out of bed. Really bad diarrhea, really bad nausea. And I knew at that point that this was going to be a long thing. I knew deep inside, this isn't just food poisoning. It's something else.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And, my husband was, it's just food poisoning. You had sprouts. Nobody else had the sprouts. It was just food poisoning.
Right.
But I was no, it's something else. I know this isn't going to be a quick thing. Got home. It wasn't a quick thing. I was sick for 2 weeks. Then I got a little bit better. And then full blown sick again, even worse this time. I had lost 12 pounds. I would wake up with extreme anxiety in the middle of the night. I would wake up with my heart pounding, sweats all over, tingling all over my body. I literally thought I had cancer or something, or MS or something, my anxiety was so high. I thought I had some sort of extreme illness. And then, going back and forth from doctors. So going to my doctor, her not knowing what it was. She ordered me a CT scan. Nothing was found. My blood work seemed okay. My white blood cells were a little bit elevated, but everything else looked okay. And then going to naturopaths and just trying to figure it out. They thought I had some sort of bacteria. So I was given really, really strong antibiotics, which made me feel worse. I was given tinctures by the naturopath, which also made me feel worse. So I ended up going to emergency about 3 times, just thinking I was dying, because that anxiety piece plays a huge role. And I always knew that, your mind and your gut are connected, but I didn't know how, like how intertwined it was. And then I would hear people like say that you just have anxiety, like go to a therapist or get some anxiety meds. I mean, I'm not going to lie, in the middle of it, I did feel like I needed something. I never did, but I knew that it was something in my body that was causing this because I had never experienced anxiety like that before.
Do you feel as though that the symptoms of, let's say, your stomach and your high cortisol and the not being able to get back down to a normal baseline of cortisol, do you think that brought on the anxiety, or did you have the anxiety which sort of brought on those symptoms?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I remember feeling a little strange going to the trip.
Right.
Like, so I think maybe anxiety started around then. But then the gut thing happened during the trip.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. I don't know what caused what. I think it was kind of like everything together. And then me also wanting so badly to feel better that I was listening to all different people and trying different things. And I think I made myself worse.
Well, you're visiting specialists and naturopaths and doctors and going to emergency and just not getting answers. So that all compounded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then I started taking prescription PPIs, which helped a little bit at first.
So just explain to the listenership and the viewership what PPIs are and why did you start taking them?
It's an antacid. And so I started taking it because I guess my symptoms were, as soon as I woke up, I was nauseous until about 12 or 1 o'clock. Couldn't eat anything. And they thought I had like some sort of GERD or acid reflux. And then I ended up getting an endoscope and they said I had like gastritis. So she told me I have to be on prescription antacids for the rest of my life. So I started that. I was doing it every morning. And then, when you're taking something consistently, your body needs more of it. So I was taking 1 in the morning and 1 at night and feeling like I could manage more, like I could eat more, but I would have other symptoms like the tingling throughout my whole body and just like weird symptoms. I'm like still waking up in the middle of the night. So still not feeling back to my regular self. And then one day I was actually speaking at an event at the Strength Evolve Summit that Andrew Coates actually.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. And it was Krista who I met, who's your friend, and I was telling her about just what I had been through and what I'm still dealing with, and she said you have to contact Andrew or you have to contact Brendan.
Yeah.
And she said he's the gut whisperer, just like send him a message and take it from there, and that's what I did.
Before we take a move into the next break, what was the tipping point for you where you thought that you needed to pursue a different alternative and a different modality? Obviously, you were at the expo and you were talking to Krista, but what was the straw that sort of broke the camel's back?
I feel like it was there too. I was taking the PPIs. I was taking 1 in the morning and 1 at night, and I wasn't feeling better. Like I felt like my symptoms were getting worse again. So I knew that, what am I going to take even more? No. And I also knew that my body could heal if I gave it what it needed to.
Yeah.
I just needed that. I needed the coach. I needed the help.
Well, and here you are, unaccredited health coach, and all of a sudden dealing with some stomach issues and some anxiety issues, and then you've been suggested and prescribed prescription medication from a doctor, and you're taking that, and now other symptoms are starting to display themselves. But you intuitively knew.
Yeah. It's just a Band-Aid. It was just a Band-Aid, and I knew I wasn't going to get better unless I really got to the root cause.
So let's take a quick break, and then let's get talking about the root cause. Okay.
Awesome.
Brandon! Something happens inside us when we get inspired to change ourselves, change our nutrition, our fitness. But we really do need to visualize to see and feel how we want to be. And for that, we need a plan.
No, you need a plan.
I want you to
We
say,
need a plan.
We need a plan.
You said
We
we,
need a
so
plan.
I don't know.
Brandon Coates is the author of the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Let Brandon into your lives for just 30 days. It'll be epic, I can promise you. Because for some of you, maybe it is time to bust out of what you are. It's the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Available direct at BrandonCoates.ca. And go behind the scenes with Brendan for each and every episode of the Gut Gang Podcast. That's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Brandon! I think this podcast is going to be fun, pretty fun, and different than the other podcasts.
And we're back. What were we talking about again?
I guess reaching out to you and how
Yeah.
it started to help me.
Right. Okay, go for it. Share how that happened. So you were
So
speaking at an event.
Krista introduced us, and then I sent you a few long voice notes, which you replied. And we had our first meeting, and just everything that you said, I was already in. Like, I already knew that I had to really get to the root of it. And I knew with my Canadian School of Natural Nutrition background, it had to be with food.
Mm-hmm.
And I had decided already, I think I told you this on the call like a couple days before, that I'm not taking any more PPIs. And I know it's not recommended, but I did just stop cold turkey. And it wasn't that bad. I started like juicing right away in the morning. And then we started our work together, and you took me through the whole process.
I just want to say, like, a woman like you, like, you're like my dream client, is like, I want to get to the root cause.
Yeah.
Right. So you went in through my sort of, I don't have wonderful sales pages or wonderful campaigns and things like that. It's just, no, let's get to work.
Yeah.
You want to work? Great. Let's enroll you and let's get to work. So what happened when we started working together?
Yeah, I wanted to start right away. You said, maybe give it a week or two before the juice fast.
Right.
But I wanted to start as soon as possible because that's just the way I am. I want to go all in and start ASAP. So we started the juice fast, and I started to feel better, like almost instantly, with the burning in my stomach, the acid, and like I remember, like I track my sleep on the Aura Ring. I was getting like 2 hours of deep sleep, an hour and a half of deep sleep, almost 2 hours of REM sleep, like right away. Like my body just wanted to heal. And so, we did the juice fast for 3 days. And then
now let's say a woman's listening right now, and she's like, okay, that's it. That's the magic ticket. She hits stop on the podcast, and now she goes to buy herself a juice cleanse. Is that going to fix her problem?
No. Again, there's like
just listen, okay?
There's a whole process. There's a whole process. Then there was like, the hydrotherapy, which helped. I didn't really have too many issues going to the washroom. Like I was pretty regular, but I think it just helped kind of clean everything out.
Well,
and
in
my body back to
my words is it creates a new basement, like a new foundation, right? It allows you kind of a blank canvas to work with.
Yeah. And I also think a huge change right at the beginning was slowing down, this was before the juice cleanse, chewing my food, like chewing it. So my food, it almost becomes a liquid in my mouth. And then also not drinking with my meals, which I knew all of this, but I wasn't practicing it. I was so far removed from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. It was a really nice reminder.
Sure.
So I was really careful with, drinking within my meals and chewing my food. So the juice cleanse and the hydrotherapy, and then starting to reintroduce foods. I just loved the entire process. It made sense. And then the whole rebuilding the stomach acid really made sense, because that's what I learned as well. Like you don't have too much stomach acid. You actually have low stomach acid.
Yep.
And the acid that you're experiencing is because you have too less of your own stomach acid, which means the food is like putrefying and it's causing acid, and that's the burping, and that's the acid reflux and the bloating and that sort of thing. So going through your whole course and like getting a more deep insight into all of that was amazing.
I was worried, by the way.
You were worried?
Yeah. I was worried because there was very little or very minimal communication with you and I throughout the whole duration. I'm like, oh, God, I hope she's doing everything. But because you're such a keen learner and you're independent, you did everything that you were asked to do.
Yeah.
And I really didn't need to babysit that much.
Yeah.
So at the end, I was like, oh, wow.
I listened.
You did
And I
everything.
implement. I'm the first child.
But I was worried at the beginning. I'm like, oh my God, I hope that she's doing what she's asked to do. But you were.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing it. I was all in, and that's who I am. Like if I'm, you commit, you invest and you commit, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So
and you weren't overly enthusiastic about my price either.
No. It was an investment. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And I would talk to my partner who has seen me go through all of this and hire other people and naturopaths, and I spent a lot of money within that whole year.
I was the last person that you've seen, basically.
You were the last person, and I wish you were the first person.
Now, thank you. Other than sort of Krista, our mutual friend, talking about that, and then just our conversation on the phone, was there any sort of notion that, oh, this is just another guy or another program? Or because usually I am the last resort that a lot of people have gone to, and they've spent so much money. They've been through the ringer and the rigmarole with so many different practitioners, and they're usually pretty exhausted.
Yeah.
So did you have that feeling with me that, oh, he's just one more guy? Or
I didn't, but I'll be honest, my partner did. He's like, okay, like this, you've already spent a lot of money. He would never say no.
Right.
But he said, this better work. He said this better work because he's probably a little fed up with everything that, I was doing and I was trying. I just wanted to get better, and I knew I had to try other things. Right?
Well, how many times have you even had conversations with women who wanted to enroll in your program, and the husband was like, come on, like, so-and-so, you've done this before, or is this going to work? Right. And that's where I was even alluding to before. There's a lot of coaches online that are taking a lot of people's hard-earned money and not getting amazing results. And there are some that are also highly qualified that do get the results.
Yeah.
It's tough out there.
Yeah.
Right.
You said something on our initial call is like, you really understand the stomach. Like you understand it fully, and so I was like, okay, like this is who I'm supposed to be with. Like, because nobody could figure out what was going on with me for so long. And then the first week or during the juice cleanse, that's when my partner was like, okay, like this is working. So he was all in. But yeah, I mean, it just made sense to me, like rebuilding the stomach acid, going through that whole process too. Yeah, it just made sense. And I was feeling better.
Yeah.
I was feeling better. My anxiety was gone.
Well, and that's just it. That was a big component, right? We talked about the stress and the anxiety you really wanted to manage. And I just said, that will come by default. Obviously, just some little bit of stress management. You're doing a lot of those things. Yeah. But it's amazing. If you can rebuild the stomach and the gut, and all other body systems start to improve just by default.
Yeah. And the fasting was really big for me. I used to fast, and then I stopped just because of hormonal stuff. I think maybe I was overdoing it. But I realized, like, bringing back the fasting strategically, it really gave my stomach lining, my stomach time to heal.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge one for me as well.
So you're healed.
I'm healed. Yeah.
If a woman is listening right now and they're dealing with some of the issues that you had, what were some of the symptoms again?
It was almost like a gut rot feeling, very bad nausea. And then the nausea just making you feel horrible, and the whole anxiety piece, especially in the morning. And then a burning sensation when I ate certain foods. I didn't really get like the burping so much, like what you think acid reflux is. That's why I was like, there's no way I have acid reflux, because I would be burping and, I just, had this understanding of what it was.
So there's a crazy statistic in my world with individuals that have gut-related issues. So I don't know the exact number, but it's roughly out of 100% of people that have gut-related issues, only 20% will actually demonstrate symptoms that they correlate to their gut. The rest of the 80% will have other symptoms that are associated with the gut, but they don't correlate it and they don't say that, oh, I've got gut issues.
Yeah.
It's skin or behavior or anything like that, low energy. So it's gut rot, the heartburn. Only a few people experience that,
yeah.
right? And so they're like, oh, it must be a gut-related issue. But other things, they're like, they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey. And that's not, and also like I didn't go back to the way that I used to eat really, like before this,
Yeah.
And
you ate healthy. You said you ate healthy.
Yeah. But I would, indulge in pizza, a few glasses of wine here and there. Like I'm pretty careful. I'm more careful now.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do go out for dinner, I'll have my digestive enzymes or.
Smart.
Yeah. So I'm just like more conscious and careful.
And that's it.
But I can eat pizza
Yeah.
and feel okay now.
Good.
If I want it.
Yeah.
So that's a win.
And that's a win. And you specifically said, Jen, on the beginning when we started, you're like, I want to have pizza and I want to have wine once in a while.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
But you probably will.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you at now? What's happening with Strong Magazine and Strong Women, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or Strong, is that correct?
Strong Girls.
Strong Girls.
Strong
So it's
Girls,
like two businesses sort
Yeah.
of in one. So what's happening with that? And what's happening in the future? What do you have to look forward to?
Yeah. So this year we are growing our Strong Girls online platform in inviting more coaches into our coaching platform. So right now we have 10 new Strong Girl coaches starting. And we are also revamping our Strong Formula certification too. So we're adding more to it. And that's really going to be our focus this year. I'm really excited. I want to be able to help 1 million women walk through our Strong Girls proven system.
Wow.
Learn how to build muscle. And I can't do that alone. So, and I know that. And this is why I'm really pouring into teaching my coaches and mentoring them and teaching them how to build their little crew of women underneath. So I'm really pumped about that. Strong Fitness Magazine is growing, which is crazy for a magazine, but it is.
Especially in this time, and like people aren't buying physical books anymore and magazines and everything is digital. So
we're getting into Europe.
How amazing is that you're,
exciting.
I told you, you're Anna Wintour of Fitness Magazine. It's so good.
No, it's been awesome. Like we are working with a lot of coaches too to get them involved in the platform, get the magazine out to their community, because it can really be that community piece, when you're growing your community of women, having that magazine or having a magazine that even features your community or features the coach. So we're really working on those relationships. And we have 2 best body issues that come out every year. And they're like our special issues. They sit on shelves for 6 months. So we used to have 1. Now we've increased to 2. So it's growing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I usually sort of end off the interviews with, what is your mission and what's your vision? And you've already kind of said that, but do you want to kind of repeat and then elaborate on what your mission is and what your vision is?
Yeah. I want women to be deadlifting with their grandchildren. I want to just help women get strong. And so they can thrive as they age. Like we don't have to age and go downhill. We can go uphill. So that's my mission. I just really want to help women build muscle, get strong, deadlift with their grandchildren.
And what about your vision?
My vision is more women lifting in the gym, building and supporting each other, empowering one another.
At all different ages.
At all different ages. Yeah. Young girls learning. I wish I want to be the big sister that I never had,
Yeah.
And I feel like there is that shift happening, but teaching younger girls that it's okay to build muscle, get bigger, get stronger.
And that's just it. Like, that's why we're doing this interview, this podcast, because what a gift it is to share your message and get across to all sorts of different platforms and give women permission to build some muscle.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, I've got one more question. You've explained your mission and you want women to deadlift with their grandchildren.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I've seen my grandmother, and she's in a home now. She has dementia. Never once, exercised. Her lifestyle was a lot different. They did smoke back then. They probably drank a little bit more, but I've seen her go downhill very fast, and she's in her 80s. And so I just want a different life. And I see how many women outlive men, but the quality of life, their last 10 years of life isn't quality at all.
Mhm.
They're in homes, not mobile, often have dementia. And so that's really the reason. I've seen my grandmother go downhill. I don't want to be that.
Yep. Got it. If you were to leave with one last message to the world, what would it be?
Lift weights and build muscle can change your life.
Lift weights, build muscle, and it can change your life. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
It was a real treat and honor.
This was awesome.
If you like this episode, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and stay tuned for more episodes. I'm going to put Jen's information right down there. Be sure to give her a follow and look out for her magazines on store shelves nationwide.
Yep. Across North America.
And eventually even in Europe.
And even in Europe. Yep.
Amazing. So a strong magazine.
Strong Fitness magazine.
Strong Fitness magazine. And chances are you might see this beautiful damsel on the cover. How many covers have you been on?
8
covers. But you also feature a ton of other ones.
Yes. Not just my magazine, other.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Once again, hope you enjoyed this podcast. Share this with someone that you know would find it valuable, because there's a lot of golden nuggets. And I'm sure that some women can benefit from this, especially some grandmas. Start lifting some weights, gals. All right.
Thanks,
Gut Whisperer out.
Brandon.